fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. Short, sweet, quick today. And speaking of that, we've got...
I was like, sure, I'll take that.
Well, there you go. We got Mr. Joe Goldberg, and he's...
It's Minister Joe this week.
Minister Joe.
Son on Sunday. Yep.
Hard to believe it's finally here, right?
Finally, after same for getting my book out. It's finally here, maybe. But maybe. Yeah, it's maybe.
Well, if you're not sure, just watch The Exorcist or something.
Yeah. I'm gonna go up there and with a bottle of Jack in one hand and a cigar in the other hand. Say, let's get married. It's a great day to get married, everybody. Hey, and see how that goes. Yeah,
I like that. Let's see that on Netflix.
Well, we can't talk alcoholism because that's isn't that Jake's problem?
It is.
Yeah. No, we've got the writer. New book, The Broken Detective, and it's Joel Nedecky. So thanks for being here, Joel.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Joel, who exactly hurt you, and why are you writing crime? Like, where did it come from for you?
I don't know. I don't know who I should blame for this. I think crime stories, the reason I love crime stories, whether it's like a novel or a nonfiction, a true crime book, something like that, I think there's something just about not knowing what's going to happen next. I think when I was really young, I used to always read, this is probably going late 80s, early 90s, that kind of thing. When I was 10, 12 years old, I'd read those choose your own adventure books, and you get to pick an outcome, and then you went to the next page and you sort of determined your own fate by making that choice. And I think there's something to that in true crime and in crime fiction, that you're looking ahead to see what's going to happen and you don't know. And I also like how crime fiction is maybe a mirror of society in a way, where you can hold it up and sort of, analyze and criticize and comment on what's going on in the world.
Geez, things are going so good. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no crime in the world.
Yeah,
going down.
Yeah, it would be easy, How do you put yourself into a character? Like when this is a story of crime.
Yeah.
And you've got a detective, you've got action. How do you get into the mind of these? Let's say not only the detective, but the bad people, the people that are doing the crimes in your stories.
I think I forget who said it. It was one of the actors who played in The Dirty Dozen. I forget the guy's name, but long time ago, maybe Lee Marvin. It might have been Lee Marvin, who someone asked him, like, how do you always play these bad guys or these villains or whatever? And he said, I've never played a villain in my life. I just play people. So I think that's kind of my approach to it. I just think, if I was going to be this person, if I was going to do this, what do I want? Why am I doing this? And what is it I want? Just like a criminal or anybody like that, I think you look at their motivation. As far as Jake goes and the detective thing, piecing together the clues is fun. I think setting those markers up for the reader is always fun. Making them work in the book, I think, is a harder thing to do. But for Jake to get inside his head, I don't know. I guess I took some of myself and just sort of merged that with some of the other alcoholic detectives that I've read over the years.
Hey, Joel, you wrote some short stories. I think Jake was the character. So you had the character before you had the story for Broken Detective?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was a while ago that on this book too, it's just coming out now in the last couple of weeks, but I actually wrote most of it, a few years ago, and it just took a long time to come to publication. But I had the character first. I didn't fully know what was going to happen in the story. I just knew that he was going to be looking for a missing woman. The ticking clock that I put on to his situation, with the fact that he only has 2 weeks before he's going to prison, that was something I added quite a bit later. So yeah, definitely character first, and then story second for this one.
Well, then how did he develop from the first word to the last word as a character? But did it surprise you what he became?
I don't know if it surprised me necessarily. I think what I wanted to do with Jake is sort of investigate, like, how a person can change, what it takes to change, and just how that looks for someone who doesn't really have a lot of support, grown up in and out of foster care, and his parents were less than, it's not that they didn't love him though, they did love him, it's just that they didn't have the skills themselves to sort of do the right thing in a lot of situations. And from the beginning to the end, I think he changes quite a bit. I think he starts to learn what he really wants to do with his life.
And whose point of view are you writing this from? Like, is it the detective himself, or is it somebody else?
It is. It's from the detective. It's written in first person, past tense. It's from Jake's perspective. Most of the narrative happens in the present, and then there are a few chapters that flash back to show, I guess, a little bit of the origin story. The Jake Joelsen short stories that you mentioned earlier, those ones I actually wrote after this book. So they're prequel stories. They happen maybe 9 or 10 years before this one, but they were written after the novel.
Are you hearing Jake in your head then? Is he like a friend? Do you know him quite well?
Yeah, definitely. I think part of writing in first person, for me anyway, just with this being my first novel, I was talking to someone else about this a little while ago. I think writing in third person for me anyway is the more challenging point of view. I think first person is the voice that came more naturally for my first book. Now I've written some other stuff after, like I have another completed novel that's in third person with multiple points of view, but I found it challenging, and I definitely think that as a writer, you have to, for me anyway, I had to work up to it. I think I'm still improving, and I think I need to get better before I really get good at writing third person.
Yeah, see, I went the other way. I was third person. I've written a first person novel for this one.
Oh, interesting.
And I thought,
yeah, I think it's just that voice, whatever works.
Yeah, I felt like it sounds like you too. I felt like I couldn't know my character unless I wrote it as a first person. I needed to be in their head all the time. Is that how you felt?
That's exactly right. Yeah, like I've written, or I've read books like that too. Like I remember a while back I read, I went on a kick with Eli Craner's stuff. I don't know if you know him at all. Yeah. But he's been having some success in the crime fiction realm. And his first book, Don't Know Tough, I believe it was called, where he has these like two perspectives going back and forth. And I haven't read it in a while, but I think for sure one of the two was in third person. He might even have used first and third, I forget. But the point of view for me was first person from the beginning for this novel. Yeah,
every character by book is first person.
Yeah.
The main character is first person, and everybody else is first person. They have their couple chapters. The hard part is telling the reader who you're reading, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they have to identify themselves somehow. That's not the person they had in the previous chapter. Which actually goes to a question. I want to go back to something you mentioned: is the clues.
Yeah.
How do you lay them out? I mean, there's a science. We've talked to many crime writers on how they lay it out. Do you have something special, or how did you do it? Because that's the complex part of it.
Yeah, I do a very short outline of every chapter. So I have certain markers that I want to hit, and then I'll outline every chapter with a sentence, maybe 2 sentences at the most, and then they can change as I write. So if I think something doesn't work for my original plan, then I will change it. But I just try to make sure early on, especially that the crime is introduced early on. I want maximum conflict as early as possible. I want the story to start not at the beginning, but partway into the story, where there's been a bunch of stuff that's happened already. I definitely divide it into 3 acts, where each act needs certain parts as well that fit. As far as the clues go, I do plan those out too, and then it's just how I'm going to get there that I figure out in between.
So I guess it's hard to write, I guess suspenseful in a sense of you don't know, like the reader doesn't know ahead of time who's done what when you're in first person, right? So
yeah, like for suspense, I definitely think it's a challenge if you're writing in first person. Third, you can probably do a little bit better. I think, even reading someone like George R.R. Martin, who writes a lot in third person, of course, but he ends a lot of his chapters with cliffhangers, and then he'll have other characters come in between, and especially in the latter books that get so long, like you haven't seen characters in ages. So I feel like in a crime novel, if you're trying to keep momentum, if you're trying to reach maximum suspense, I think you do have to come back to a character a little sooner. But leaving chapters off with cliffhangers, I think, is one way that you can, even in first person. I think that's a way that you can build some of that suspense.
So where did this story come from for you?
The story of the missing woman, I don't know if it came from one particular place. Like in the, I guess, search for this woman, when Jake is looking for her, he gets pulled into this church, this mega church called Watershed Moments. And that church, it comes a little bit from a book that I had read by John Krakauer. And Krakauer, I mean, he's done a lot of nonfiction, sort of this narrative nonfiction stuff. And Under the Banner of Heaven, I believe, is the title of it. And when I read that book, it got me thinking, that I could maybe use parts of this in my story. As far as the alcoholism stuff goes with Jake and how he's trying to quit drinking, I guess I take a lot of that just from my own experiences. I've been sober myself for about 13 years now, so his story is not my story, but I definitely take parts of it from my own life.
Well, Joel, it sounds like you take the reader's perspective very important. Let me ask this question. What do you think about the reader as you're writing? Are they sitting over your shoulder? Are you writing for them? Are you writing for yourself? All those reader-writer questions.
Yeah, that one's tough. I think probably number one, I'm writing it for myself. I think if I'm getting bored, I know there's a problem and it's a scene that needs to be reworked or I need to cut it. I think for the reader, what I try to give them is the parts of the genre that they expect to get. And there's a certain style of crime fiction that I sort of grew up on, I guess, when I found all these people, like the George Pelicanoses and the Michael Connollys and the Robert Crazes, Dennis Lehane, all those guys, Lawrence Block, is like, for me, I try to give there needs to be a certain grittiness to it. I think you need a character or characters who are down and out to a certain extent, at least in that particular subgenre of crime fiction. The reader, like when I read something, I expect that. I also expect a good mystery. Like I want to be led by the writer as the protagonist searches for solutions to the problem, whether it's a missing woman or some other crime. And there needs to be a satisfying payoff in the end. And I think all those things are what readers expect, and I try to deliver them.
So is there a meaning, subtext, is there something that you want the reader to take away from this story?
There is. I don't know how much. Like I know as writers, I think writers often have a plan going into a story. Like you maybe have a commentary on something that you want to say, or there's a theme that you're trying to convey. But I don't know. I think some of that. I think at times writers give themselves maybe too much credit for those themes that they are trying to share, because I've had people read this book, early readers who have read it, and they tell me something that I didn't even know was in there, like something like what I thought the book was about is somebody being stuck. I thought it was somebody who is in a situation that they don't know how to get out of. Like they literally don't have the understanding or the skills to get out of it. And then to watch that person attempt to improve their lives. The person I was talking to was telling me it was about family, and that there was, a story in there about how, we don't get to pick our families, but sometimes we can choose them. And that wasn't my plan at all. So I don't know. Writers, we try, but how much we can actually know about our work, sometimes I'm not sure.
So how does this affect you? How did writing this book change you?
You know what? I think it's kind of an interesting thing. Like where I live in Winnipeg, which is a city. It's right in the middle of Canada. Very cold place. It's not no snow yet, but soon. And we're sort of like in Canada, like Toronto and Montreal and Vancouver get the big headlines. So Winnipeg is sometimes a forgotten place in a way. I submitted the book to Crime Writers of Canada. They have an annual awards every year. And I submitted it 2 years ago to the unpublished award, and it got shortlisted. And from that nomination, I met a bunch of people and writers from all over the place. And I went to Vancouver for a Noir at the Bar event. And I think writing this book in a way gave me maybe the confidence, or I feel like it's sort of legitimized my writing a little bit, if that makes sense. It kind of made me feel like like I'm an actual writer, like I can do this, I can get better, make it happen. So it's been a big thing for me. First book is, I think it's, I don't know, it's one I'll always remember, I guess.
Joel, I'm going to go back to a question of the content of the book just for a second, and I'll follow up on that one. But you have your main character. We've talked about. I mean, he has characteristics. He's going to go to prison in 2 weeks. But you have a lot of other characters, right? So tell me about the second-hand characters. How much time you put into them? Why are they important? Maybe the bad guys. How do you build them? Because everybody's struggling with those same kind of questions. You know, they have a strong main character, but their secondary characters are just there to kind of push the story forward and say the right word. Aha! Then out they go. They're the red shirts in Star Trek.
That's very true. That's very true. Secondary characters, like the book does have a little bit of a, I don't know if I'd call it a romance, but there's definitely a relationship. Jake, the woman who hires him, her name is Nia, and she is I guess the sister of the woman who's missing, and hires Jake to find Sadie. And I think that secondary character, I really wanted her to be like different and the same as Jake. So I put a lot of time into thinking, what I could do to get that across to the reader. Nia she was adopted. She's mixed race. She feels a lot of the same things that Jake feels as far as not really ever fitting in. So she's one character I put some time into. And then Katz, which is a nickname, I guess, for kind of Jake's like mentor character. He's older. Jake used to work for him for a bunch of years until Katz had to fire him just for being drunk and, showing up, not showing up, that kind of thing. And Katz is a guy who he's sort of been through it before. He also works as a private investigator, so they have that in common. He is also, I guess, what you could say as somebody who cares about Jake, somebody who maybe is like a father figure to him. So yeah, I definitely want to put the time in. The villain in this book is a guy named Brad Walton, who is high up in an important position in the church. And, you sort of know this early on, so it's not a spoiler or anything like that. But I just tried to look at that idea of power and how powerful people can make things happen.
Yeah, not always the good things either.
Not always good, though. Good and bad, for sure.
Bad people don't think they're bad, right? Like Lee Marvin said. They're just people.
They're just people.
That's exactly right. Like if you have a mission in life, and I think the funny thing about people is we all need that purpose, right? Whatever it is, it could be a job, it could be your family, hobby, like whatever it is. And I think a lot of people, or maybe not a lot, but some people have a purpose that maybe isn't the most positive, and like you said, I think for Walton, his purpose, his mission is just to gain power. He wants to make money. He wants to spread the word. He wants to just have influence, really, is what he wants.
So building the characters, building the story, or were there things that you were writing that you said, nah, that's too much, or the current situation in the world won't like that? I won't use the word cancel, but maybe with some violence or something like that. Is there something that you said, I'd better back off on that? I got to cut that.
That's an interesting question. When I wrote this book, it was, it's still going on, but that whole cancel culture conversation was definitely even more prominent than it is now. I tried to not let anything like that influence story as much as possible, but I think it always maybe creeps in a little bit. I can't think of one example right now of something I cut. There's a scene that I left in the book with Jake and one of his foster care placements, one of the most abusive places that he lived as a teenager, and he kind of gets a little bit of revenge in the scene with a baseball bat. That was one that I did think about whether or not this needs to be in the book. And after, some consideration, I decided to leave it in. So something like that, something like Jake, he grew up in foster care. That's something that I did not experience in my life. I do know people who have, and I did some research on that, although I don't want the book to be, speaking for all people who grew up in foster care or all alcoholics. That's not what this book is. It's one character, and it's their perspective, their experiences, and it's what happened to them in the context of the story.
What would you do different in your next book that you've learned from doing this book, or that you did in this book?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Lessons learned.
Yeah, lessons learned, like about the book, about writing it, or just about
Just anything. It's when you, like, you've been through the whole experience, you know, from beginning to end. Now it's published.
Yeah.
It's all done. So you're going to sit down and do another book. Of course, you're going to get into something new. Is there something you've learned, or something that this whole experience took you through, or that you came out and you kind of go, oh boy, never do that again, or that's going to change, or I'm going to do this different, or anything that you got from this first book?
the one thing that's coming to mind is that, like, and the second book I finished. I haven't given it to anyone. No one's read it, but the sequel is finished. And the one thing I learned from this first book is that I need to have like a better plan so things don't change so much. So I guess what I mean is sometimes I'll write a draft. Like, I write quickly, but I edit a lot. So I'll go through many different drafts. And I think writing The Broken Detective, there was some extra time, some wasted time spent over drafting, just because I had to make these big changes that if I would have been a little more careful with my planning, I think I could have avoided. So have the story locked in, have the characters locked in a little more before I start redrafting, start on the second, third draft, whatever it may be. And I think that'll just save me some time. It did for the second one. Now it's not finished, so I'm still going to have to do some changes whenever I get with an editor. But I think that's the thing I learned, is that you can't, drafting is great, editing, second drafts, whatever, but you can waste a lot of time if you just keep rewriting. At some point, you have to have a plan and just stick to it.
Well, sometimes you even have
mind your own business.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, things can change. Like, no, don't misunderstand. Like, things can definitely change. Like, I don't want to be too locked in, but what I mean is, I guess, just the amount of time I spent, I feel like I could have.
Well, it's getting the balance between, you kind of have a story outlined and you're going through characters, and then something changes about a character which changes the story, and then you have to go back and rework it. Yeah, and I mean, that's part of that cycle, which isn't always easy,
No, it's not.
But it's a good thing, you learn from it, I think.
For sure. Yeah, no, I actually like editing. I like revising and layering in those details that on the first draft maybe you don't have, and then later on you can add them in. Getting just getting those little pieces right can make all the difference.
So what time period are you writing this in? Like, what year is this taking place?
It's set in the fall of 2019. Yeah, so it takes place, I guess, when I was writing it, most of it, I guess I wrote probably 2022-ish. So it was kind of, the COVID situation was still going. And I just felt like, for whatever reason, 2019 was the year that made sense. And it was pre-COVID, so there's none of that in there. And for the second one, when Jake gets out, it's at the end of his prison sentence, so it takes place over a year later.
Hey, Joel, let me ask a question, because I had this as I'm writing. Did you, in your crime story, clues, and piecing it together, did you go out and look for real examples that could be mirrored or used, or give you ideas to put in the book? Say, this person did that in their crime. Use an ice pick. I'm going to use an ice pick. Are there examples from real crimes, real events that you put inside this fictional book? Yeah,
I would say not so much with regards to the disappearance of Sadie, but with the church. I think using that Krakauer book, I think Under the Banner of Heaven, I think with some of the religious stuff in there, maybe I changed it. I kind of made it its own thing, but I took some of the influence from that book. As far as the crime goes, a little bit. I have a friend, good buddy of mine I played hockey with growing up, who's a police officer. So some of the ways that a certain unit will arrive, or the names of the different units and what each one is responsible for, like, I took that from real life and tried to use it in the book, just to, as much, I had to change a couple things, but as much as possible make it authentic. But as far as the crime, not so much.
Better than going out there and doing it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you make some exactly what I was thinking. It's like, I don't use other people's crimes. I do it myself, and I write about it. It's how original.
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't announce that. I would keep that to myself.
Yeah, we'll keep that off air. No.
Exactly.
Okay, so we know what's going on next. You've got the second book already kind of worked out, and you're going to get it going, I guess. When you were writing the first one, The Broken Detective, did you kind of have it in your mind you were going to do a second one?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. A lot of my favorite writers work in series, and series are a tricky thing. I think you can, if the first book works, if it can find an audience, then I think you do have a little bit of an advantage with the second, third, and fourth, and fifth. I think if you look at best-selling crime novels right now, a lot of them are like the 20th in series. So I do think the series can get a little long at times. Not, saying a 20th book can't be good, but I've always thought maybe 5 books with Jake would be about the right number. So yeah, I definitely had a plan to do that. I love following characters over a series of books. But I don't know if I'd want to do as many as 20, but 5 seemed like a good number.
Yeah, it's a bit long, 20, but hey.
Yeah.
Hey. So let's see. Now, do you have social media, website, lemonade stand, bar you go to? Where do people find Joel?
You can find me at my website, which is jnedecky.com. So just the letter J and then my last name.com. All my social media stuff is on there. I'm on Instagram quite a bit. I'd say that's the one that I prefer. I do have a Substack as well. So if people want to sign up for my newsletter, you can do that on my website. My newsletter is monthly. It's just about writing and movies and books and just anything that's kind of catches my attention in the moment.
Now, we'll put all that up on our website as well, and along with your book. And what can we say? It's been a pleasure talking to you, and good luck with the book. The Broken Detective, Joel Nedecky. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.
Fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the